I got a call from a designer. He says, I'm a postage stamp designer. I live in Scottsdale, and we want to use you for the Centennial for Arizona. And I thought, how great. And then they said, the painting we're going to buy from you because it is now considered currency. And I was really disappointed because Jim Ballinger wanted to borrow it for the museum, you know, and they'd never responded to him. You know, we're talking Jim Ballinger.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that you also do plein air painting. There are times that you'll go out, especially with you and Gary Ernest
Gary
Smith.
Ernest Smith and I and Larry Clarkson.
Yeah, Larry Clarkson.
We used to do that more often than we do now. But those were fun, and mostly in Utah. Although we did Arizona once, and I took them through Karcher Caverns with the Parks Department head.
Another thing that you did, we might as well mention that while you're here on Karcher Caverns, because you did the big Kugelakon that's in the park, right? How'd you get that deal?
Well, these stories are long, and I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's what we're here for.
Well, a friend of mine, Mark Cavness, had just gone into the caves with Ken Travis, who was the head of the Parks Department. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about developing it and stuff. And when he came out, he said, do you know who Ed Mell is? And he said, yeah, he's a friend of mine, and he happens to be in Rio Rico for the evening because he's on the Copper State 1000 vintage car rally I do. And so they came over there, and we cut a deal right then and there. And I did a painting for the visitor center that is 10 feet high and 7.5 feet wide.
I remember the study in your...
In fact, that's it right there.
Yeah, it's in my office, exactly.
Yeah. The poster we did of it.
Yeah, and the small study that you did, which really wasn't small, I remember it being in your studio and wanting to buy it, and you were like, no, I don't think so.
No, I still have it.
Yeah. Well, good that I wasn't, it didn't go to someone else, because I remember trying to buy it. I did get to buy and still have the little Grand Canyon study that you did for the Weston at Carolyn Commons.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. So people who go to the Weston Carolyn Commons in Scottsdale, they'll see in the bar this huge Grand Canyon.
And I think it's 3.5 by 9 feet high.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it's a very vertical composition.
Yeah.
And that was, and then they had the Ed Mell room, they had the Barry Goldwater room, they had the Bob Bosbell room.
Yeah. Well, you got to meet Barry Goldwater on one of your helicopter trips, right?
Yeah, I met, Jerry. Barry Goldwater, back in the 40s, had a place called Rainbow Lodge, which was on the foothills of the Navajo Mountain. And it's the only way that you could see Rainbow Bridge. And they were cowboys that would take you in on quite a adventurous trail to Rainbow Bridge. You know? That was before the lake was there.
Right.
And he hadn't been back since it burnt down in 1951. And Jerry picked him up on one of our trips. There was 2 helicopters on that trip. And I've got a great shot of Barry in the helicopter over Lake Powell. And I had just designed Jerry's paint job for his new helicopter. So it really looks good. And because the old one was a little clunky. You know? And anyway, so we flew he hadn't been there since 1951 when it burned down.
Wow.
That's my recollection anyway. I could be wrong. And he sat there and told stories about, the place. And I guess the cowboy came in from one of the rides to Rainbow Lodge and put a cigarette on his windowsill when he took a shower, and he burnt the place down.
Oh, man.
So he was emotional about it and told some interesting stories.
I bet. Yeah. It's his history. And that's gone.
And so that was really cool. And then we went to Monument Valley with him, and he took us to a place called Newspaper Rock. I guess there's a lot of them, but this thing was as high as a 2 or 3 story building. and it just was covered with petrographs all over it. So,
yeah, and a lot of those places you get into, especially with a helicopter, no one's ever been to.
yeah, and this was fairly close to Lake Powell, too.
Yeah.
And because he had an airplane, he knew how to find it.
Yeah.
You know, you have that perspective.
It's different.
And, he took us right to the lodge, too,
Yeah. Well, you can also see a lot of prehistoric ruins from ways that you couldn't see it from below because,
Right.
they want to hide those outlets so you can't see them from below.
Exactly.
They weren't, when they were building them in 1200 AD, they weren't thinking of somebody coming up from above.
Yeah.
So you can look in.
Yeah.
Or eye
In
level.
fact, we were flying, and he had a news reporter with us on one trip, and we were on the other side, on the north side of Navajo Mountain, and we were the reporter asked Jerry, "Have you ever seen ruins here?" And just as we do that, there's a ridge. It's probably 300 feet high, like a cliff that ran forever. And just as he said that, we saw a window with a big utilitarian pot sitting there. So we landed, and we crawled around and looked at it. You would never see it from above. It just looked like the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
You'd never see it from below. And to my knowledge, that pot's still there. So
Yeah. Let's hope.
yeah. That's another helicopter shot.
And so you're known for the Grand Canyon and Lake Powell. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, especially because the Grand Canyon, you've been associated with the symphony, the chamber music, I guess.
Well, it started as a chamber music festival. Now I think it's just called the music festival.
I mean, you've done that for, 30 years or something?
I think so, yeah.
A long time.
And
Yeah.
I did posters every year until posters kind of fell out of fashion and they weren't selling them. And then we did a Giclée prints limited edition to fund the opera.
And you do, and you do that.
Chamber music.
The chamber music. You do that every year, right?
Well,
or you have.
When they ask me,
Yeah.
Sometimes we haven't done it every year.
Yeah.
They still have stuff that they sell from the year before.
And which came first, them or you were painting the Grand Canyon and they saw the Grand Canyon paintings? Do you know?
Well, I'd done a few before that, for sure. I mean, that means I'm doing one for sure every year for a long time anyway,
I mean, I think it's some of your most successful imagery is the Grand Canyon.
It's the most difficult thing to paint.
I would think.
It's so complex and you're still trying to create a new mood, and
Right.
find something new there. So to me, it's a challenge,
Yeah, one of my greatest memories is the first time my children got to see the Grand Canyon. I have a picture of them together. You were there with them. You went up. That's the very first time they ever saw the Grand Canyon, which was with Ed Mell, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I remember, I actually have a picture of them on this spot. And then in the Haggerty book, there's a picture of you and your family basically at the same spot. And you probably are 6 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Because my dad was editor of the Arizona Beverage Journal, he always was shooting 2 1/4 black and white.
Yeah.
Of some guy's bar or some guy's store or something. And he always had film left.
Yeah.
So he would shoot, he'd finish the roll. I mean, he took pictures of us, and I look back at it, and he was really a good photographer because that is a great picture of the family.
It is.
Yeah, we're really young.
Yeah, really, really young. And so do you still do some Grand Canyon? I don't think I've seen one in a long time.
I did one last year.
You did?
I did,
Yeah. Is it always tough each time to go back and do it? I mean, because it is a tough, Dixon really didn't paint the Grand Canyon much. I mean, it was,
I think he just did one, didn't he?
He did the one right before he died for the Los Angeles Railroad.
The big one.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he ever did anything else. He didn't like the Grand Canyon because there's too many tourists.
Oh.
So he there was too many people. And he was like, this is ruined.
Yeah.
But Canyon de Chelly he loved because it had the sensibilities of the Grand Canyon without all the people.
It's a little more simplistic too, I mean, when you walk to the edge of the Grand Canyon and you can't fathom how big it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so large. I remember watching a helicopter take off across it.
Right.
And I'm going, well, he's clear to the other side, and he cut in front of the closest formation. You know, I mean, it's just like, it is so immense. And then I did a float trip with some friends, with my wife Rosemary and some friends, and we went down there for 8 days, and there's a whole nother it's hugeness to it that is.
And have you done some imagery from that float trip?
I have, yes.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that would suit you better in a way, that kind of.
Well, it's got a lot of different moods, and you know, the light in the evening. We were very fortunate. We went right after they'd let a lot of water down, and they built up these beautiful white sandy beaches. And the weather was perfect, and it was really a wonderful trip, you know. And we went with the Sands family, some of the Sands family, and that was great.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah, also art lovers.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so Lake Powell is another one that you've done a great deal of.
Yeah, I think it was because I flew with Jerry so much over that. I mean, because we would always stay at Waweep Lodge there, you know. In the early days, they'd rope off an area of the parking lot, and we could land right there. Later on, those rules changed.
Yeah, they changed. Who are those guys? They're not VIPs. And so you work with Suzanne until she closes, and then you started working with the other gallery that was not there anymore in my mind.
Oh, Overland Gallery.
Yeah, Overland. Sorry about that, Overland.
And
great gallery for a lot of years.
So I was with Suzanne till 2001, which was 20 years. And then I was with Overland 14 years until they closed in 2014. And that's when I talked to my assistant, Kenny, who's now been with me for 27 years, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about Kenny, because he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, he was working at Arizona Art Supply, and he'd helped me out a few times, and I really liked the guy. And I'd had guys that had helped me for short periods of time, and you know, I approached Ken, and he goes, "Well, you know, I feel kind of faithful to my employer here."
Right.
And then I went a couple times later, and I hope I have this story right, but I think I said, "I'll double your salary," and he said, "I'll come talk to you." And so he started working for me. It was almost like part-time. He'd stretch canvas.
Right.
More and more, he got more involved with running and managing my world with museums, galleries, foundries, framers, everything. And then in 2014, I had bought this building just down the street from my studio, and I had built a garage in the back that had a few old cars and stuff. And it was just sitting there and full of my junk. It was basically my personal warehouse.
Right.
A small building, about 600 square feet, built in 1920, a cool little building. And I had restored it on the outside. It was part of the deal to be able to build another building, as the city likes to see you really fix up the property, and it definitely needed that. And we turned it into, I said, "Ken, do you want to do a gallery?" And he goes, "Yeah," because he had worked, he and two other people had a gallery in Central Phoenix, Pravis Gallery, and so he had some knowledge of how to run a gallery to start with. And, you know, it's paid for itself more than once.
I'm sure. And that opened about the time Overland
2015.
Closed. Yeah,
they closed in 2014. Took us about a year to get it all together.
Yeah. And so you had mentioned the foundry. Tell me a little bit about your sculptures, because one of the most iconic images of all of, really, I say Arizona, is the big jackknife that's in the center of Scottsdale. I mean, that is, you know, any Super Bowl, you're going to see jackknife, right? Any major event that goes on nationally that happens to take place in really Phoenix, not just Scottsdale, but Phoenix, they're going to show a picture of jackknife. I mean, it's true, right?
Right. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. It's quite fun to see.
I was going to say, this has to be weird to watch the Super Bowl and go, that's my...
Only give it 2 seconds.
Yeah, even so. They're not showing a picture of my gallery during those 2 seconds.
Well, you know, they're wandering around town or whatever catches their eye.
Right.
Yeah, I had been doing sculpture, kind of tabletop size for a few years, and um, I was asked to do this. I was asked to do something for City Hall, Scottsdale City Hall, to make a presentation. Nothing came from that, and then I was asked to do something for Main Street and Marshall Way. They did a competition before that,
right?
And Luis Jimenez got it,
right?
But it was kind of voted down by the Galleries Association because
fiery red eyes and
well, I think it was a cowboy rope and a purple cow.
Yeah,
and it was also fiberglass, which is really high maintenance.
Yes.
And I think those two things killed it. So they did another competition, and I won that. And I'd never done a large bronze before, but I had Arizona bronze to walk me through it, hold my hand through the whole process.
Right.
And I did it. So I ended up doing the finished clay in my studio, and they came and pulled the molds right there. And make a long story short, and I worked with an architect, John Douglas. We designed the base. I mean, it was a $80,000 commission in '93. We spent almost all the money doing it.
Oh, I bet. Well, just the bronze alone, right?
The bronze, I think, ran $35,000.
Yeah.
Or more, maybe. But we had to do the whole concrete and everything. And John Marty and an old friend of mine, his company did the base of it, and John Douglas, the architect, designed it. John's in my studio and a lot of things.
Was it a roundabout still at that time?
It is, yeah.
It was then.
It still is, yeah.
Yeah. So they just realized something needed to go there.
I just hated when those damn semi-trucks come in there, and they were always taking a chunk out of the concrete.
So it's been up since '93. I mean, it's amazingly iconic. And so I know you've done maybe half a dozen of different kind of sizes of jackknife since then.
Not a half dozen. We've done
5? I can't remember. I've had every one of them. But
we've had, I did the maquette, which was 2 foot. Then we did a 4 foot.
Yeah.
And then I've done a smaller one since.
Yeah. And then one big one for huge one.
Yeah. I did only 2 castings of that.
Yeah. Forbes.
In fact, when Bollinger took over the bronze, Arizona bronze from the D'Ambrosi family, he found the pieces cast. They were just never put together. He found enough, and we put them together, and I sold that to Kip Forbes.
Yeah, so that's a Forbes
ranch in Colorado.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think there's one I've got, actually one over here. You probably didn't even recognize it. That's one of the small ones.
That is the very first one I did.
Yeah.
Which the proportions needed to be refined before I went big.
Yeah.
The writer's a little big on it.
Yeah.
And stuff.
For those who are watching on YouTube, I'll put that. It's in my office. I bought it years ago, and I just kept it.
Yeah.
I've got jackknife all around me everywhere. But Digging In was your first sculpture, wasn't it?
Yes. In '85, I did that.
Yeah.
And I had, clay is such a forgiving medium. It's oil-based, so you can play with it forever. And if you got a good eye, you'll eventually get it to where you want it, So I kind of did that for the summer, took it into Arizona Bronze, never met him, but somebody said, that's the guys you got to go see. Mark D'Ambrosi and I became very good friends for many years. He's moved out of the country, but anyway, so I did that, and we sold it out.
Yeah, no, it's been sold out forever.
Yeah, it sold out within a year, I know, and we did an edition of 28, as I recall.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Anyway, so I'm a painter that sculpts once in a while. Let's put it that way.
And you do lithographs occasionally.
I do.
Yeah, which are fantastic, because these are like 25 color pool kind of lithographs.
Some of them 80.
80, yeah.
Yeah.
So
my printer is now in Amarillo, Michael Rayburn, but when he was here, it was a lot easier to do, of course, but I still will do a piece.
And is that the same person you've worked with for the whole
Well,
time
I
frame?
started out with Southwest Graphics, and that was, what was her name? I can't remember, but anyway, her and her husband then, their last name was Baker. I did quite a few lithos with them, like maybe 8 or so. And then Then I did a serigraph, real minimal Grand Canyon piece.
Right, right.
Which I don't think we sold very many of.
Yeah.
And it was a serigraph, and I did with Michael Rayburn, and then just kept doing things with him over the years, you know.
And how many lithos do you think you've done? Do you know? I don't even know, and I should.
I actually don't know.
But it's not very often. It seems like I tell people maybe once every 2 to 3 years.
Probably 25.
Yeah,
I would say
that's about right. Right, about once every 2 to 3 years, you'll do one.
Did a few etchings and
a
few different things like that. Yeah.
And one of the things I love about them is they're very low production. 250. As far as
most of them are 200.
Yeah, exactly.
And with artist proofs.
Yeah, exactly. So and. Can we tell the people about the next one that's coming out? You were talking to me about it. I don't know if we can spoil that or not yet.
I think we're going to be doing one on the piece. Piece. It's called. God, I can't remember.
It's the horse, right?
Yeah, horse with the mesa behind it.
Yeah, it just sold at auction for like 70-something thousand.
Yeah, 75, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. That's going to be a great lithograph.
I think it will be, and it's the first one that I've done with any animals.
I know.
I don't know why it took so long, but
it's like, well, that's it's an interesting component because people and animals, which you don't do that often, but they're highly collective, especially like the longhorns. I mean, your longhorns are fantastic, but you probably have done. How many do you think you've done? 30, maybe.
Maybe,
right?
Yeah.
Not many, and so everybody wants those, and your workers, your bricklayers, and those.
Yeah.
I mean,
I go through periods where I get involved with the figurative stuff, and then I go back to landscape. So,
you have this one piece that's in my house actually of a nude person that's kind of crumpled up. Do you know that?
Remember that was the one that I dug out of the back room, and you immediately wanted it.
I did. I love that. It's in my bedroom. What's the story on that? I'm just curious for myself.
I think it was sort of a environmental statement. She sort of seems unhappy with the situation.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my thinking on it. But I didn't put it out there, until you wanted it. So.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I'll put it in, if it's okay with you, I'll put it in the video and people can see what it looks like if you want me to. Yeah. But yeah, I look at it and I see angst when I look at that painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as we all know, the environment's in trouble.
Yeah.
And, look at the drought we're in now.
Yeah, I know. It's really bad.
All related. It's kind of scary,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a place in Prescott, and I have to water my trees.
Yeah, that tells you something. And one of the things you have done are saguaros. Not often, but you do them fantastically. There's a little one up there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that was a plein air piece that I did.
I wondered about that.
And it was over near the Superstitions.
Yeah, I love it.
I did it when I was with Gary and Larry.
Yes, one of my clients brought it and wanted to sell it, and I just paid them. I paid them more than actually they paid for it. Because I liked it and just said, I'll keep it. I think I'll just put it up there for...
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Well, they don't do... I love your saguaros, but you haven't done, again, as many of those as one might think you could.
Yeah, I did a real modernist piece last year. I think it's called Sonoran Kings, I think.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. And we did a litho of that.
That's why I know it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you started doing flowers. I think people would be very interested about this because your flowers are actually some of the most sought after works, which have absolutely completely different than what you're known for or were known for. Now I think you're kind of known for them. How did that all happen?
I was painting landscapes and I just got a little bored. I thought I'd like to try something, a different perspective. You're looking at a small thing, making it large, as opposed to taking a large thing and making it small, And you're changing your palette's different. It just gives you new stuff to play with. And so that's how I initially got going with it. And I remember I gave a few to Suzanne Brown, and they flew off the walls.
Right.
So obviously that so you don't have to store them. You'll do more.
And that was 88, right? Something like that, maybe?
I have no idea.
I think it was somewhere.
It was really early.
Yeah, something like that time frame.
You're probably right.
Yeah. And you've done cactus, you've done petunias, irises, but it seems like your roses really resonate with people as well.
Yeah.
Why roses? Do you know?
I don't know. They have such beautiful form, and they have such great varied color in them. I think that has a lot to it. But I haven't painted rose in quite a while.
Good. Wait until February. Now, I have a couple of pieces. I actually just asked for myself that are cactus flowers with the Grand Canyon behind them. Mm-hmm. And so that's not as typical as what you're doing now, right?
No. I think I did a few. I did one of those as a poster, I believe.
That could be.
Yeah.
I'll show them to you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After a while, you can't keep track of all your children.
Well, it's true. I mean,
occasionally I'll see a painting and I go, did I do that? It's not so great.
Do you ever want to just go, let me buy that and get it off the market?
I'm not that.
No. Yeah.
I got better ways to spend my money.
Yeah. No. So when
no artist is perfect.
No, it's true.
And I mean, I'm sure there's Georgia O'Keeffe's out there that she wished nobody ever saw.
I'm sure there's some clunkers.
But that's if you're productive and you're making a lot of work, you allow yourself to make mistakes and not do great stuff. But most of it never. I'll either repaint them or don't put them on the market.
Yeah. Well, if you don't do that, they're not going to, I mean, you would have never done a flower if you didn't, risk and go, let me see what this looks like. Even if I mean, I'm sure when you started doing, you're thinking, I'm a landscape painter and probably nobody's going to get it, but I want to do this anyway.
Oh, you should see one of my earliest landscapes. You'd roll your eyes.
I doubt it. I probably want to buy it, Ed.
Well, you'd show it to everybody, and that'd be against my philosophy.
I'll keep it hidden. And you've also done you got a United States postage stamp. That was
really. As a kid, I collected stamps. In fact, there's a certain beauty in graphics to stamps, especially the early ones, that I studied a lot, and I'm sure that had something to do with where I am in a weird way.
Yeah, I get it.
The visuals were just great, and so I got a call from a designer, and I thought that stuff was competition. He says, I'm a postage stamp designer. I live in Scottsdale, and we want to use you for the Centennial for Arizona. And I thought, how great. And he had taken some existing paintings and mocked them up, but I felt that I needed to do a piece specifically for that, And Saguaros were done for the 50-year centennial. Grand Canyon has been on a lot of stamps.
Yes.
So I chose Cathedral Rock at Sedona because it, again, is an iconic formation. Plus, it's great proportion for a stamp, too. It's for a horizontal stamp proportion. So I worked up a drawing. It was sent to the post office for approval. They approved it, and then I did the painting. And then they said, the painting we're going to buy from you because it is now considered currency.
I remember you telling me that.
And I was really disappointed because Jim Ballinger wanted to borrow it for the museum, and they'd never responded to him. We're talking Jim Ballinger.
It's funny, but I could see why they would consider it currency.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could take that image maybe and make knockoff postage stamps too.
Yeah. Like who in the hell would do that? they just photocopy real ones, wouldn't they? It'd be a lot easier.
Seems like it. I don't know.
It's like they used to not allow photographs of money.
Yeah.
But
who cares?
Nobody's going to use that. They take the real thing.
Do you know where that painting is? Is it in?
I think it's in their collection. They have a pretty extensive art collection.
Yeah.
I understand, but I don't really know. Probably in Washington, but I'd be kind of curious to find out.
It'd be interesting to know. And then the other big major thing you did was for the Arizona Highways. That was their 75th anniversary.
Oh, I did their 90th
90th
cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Working with Robert Steve, their editor, who's become a good friend. And he said, I want a painting that kind of takes in a lot of different terrains of Arizona.
Right. I love this painting.
And I went, that's a tall order.
Yeah, it is a tall order.
But it worked out. And so he was great. He was really great to work with. And then I ended up using the original. So for the Copper State 1000, a vintage car rally, I've been involved since its inception. And it was started by Phoenix Art Museum. And Jim Ballinger called and said one day, hey, we're going to do this show and we need artwork for the cover of the route book, and we're going to do a poster. Would you be interested? And I said, well, I have an old Corvette. Can I go? Right. And he said, we'd probably work that out. So I only missed one, and that was last November because the pandemic was still in full swing, and we decided against it. But it's the only one I've missed, and this was our 31st one this year.
Yeah, and you do a painting for them every year, right?
I do, and they auction it off.
Yep.
To benefit the museum and stuff. So.
Yeah.
So it's and I get to go free.
Well, you're paying for yourselves. Those paintings bring a lot of money.
Yeah,
and they continue. You may have been going free at first. Now they're getting the good deal, I think, probably on that. The paintings keep going from big to small.
They always
Here you go.
They always covered the cost.
Yeah.
And sometimes quite a bit more. This year, the piece went for $30,000.
Yeah, there you go.
So
yeah, that makes up for a lot of early ones.
Yeah.
Now, and then the other thing I'd love to talk about, because I think it's so impressive of who you are and what you are, is you did a opera.
Yeah, that was another one of the, there's sort of this artist bucket list,
right.
And in the history, a lot of guys have done set design and stuff. And I always thought it would be interesting, but I never sought it out. I just waited until it came to me. And so the Phoenix was developing an opera based on the Zane Grey novel, Riders of the Purple Sage. And it was written by Craig Balmer, and he did the music. And then, anyway, as it came together, Kristen Outwell was going to do a documentary on the making of the film, and she contacted me about possibly doing a set design. I thought, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing the sets for Riders of Purple Sage, and they were made up of these really tall, kind of monumental rock formations.
Yeah, really tall.
And then they had the lighting director said, what do you think about a 30 by 60 foot LED screen? And I thought, because you backlight stuff, the theater lights wash it out.
Right.
And that thing, when it lights up, it's like being there.
It is.
And so we went through a lot of my paintings over the years and took skies out of them, and they gave them to a guy that taught theater at ASU, and he put them together, really in a seamless way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd be watching the live action, you look up and there's a sky, and you look back down and look up and there's something new going on.
It's true.
And it was pretty amazing what he did, I thought. So there was a lot of interesting components to it. And then I worked with the guys that built the sets and that kind of thing. I did initially, which I still have the diorama. We have the initial little scale model of it. And then I did paintings of each piece, so they had refined color and form on them. And then they built them big. And
Yeah, they were huge, like 30 feet tall, right?
I think the highest ones were 28 feet high.
Yeah, I mean, they were
So
monstrous.
you put people next to them.
I know.
There's a scale to them.
It was so weird going to. I went down there when they were when Atwell was filming for the documentary, standing on that stage in a land of Ed Mell, basically, with Ed Mell.
It was fun.
It must have felt weird for you too when you saw the play for the first, or the opera the first time, to see all your paintings and things. Did it feel like I mean, that's almost like a dream.
Well, it's definitely was a high point for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I really enjoyed, because I didn't have to build them. I just designed them, and and worked with them on the color a little. And these guys are so good, and they actually texture them, and the paint is kind of put on with spatter to give it life. So when it's lit, and it doesn't look like that. It looks like the painting's pretty much, but just has a little more life to it. So it was. I was very impressed with their ability, and the whole process was really a delight.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing, and they've run it 2 different seasons, I guess. Do you know if it's going to have life after?
I don't know, but I know there was interest as far away as Europe on it, but how that whole world works, I don't really understand.
Well, I did a podcast with Christine Atwell, so
that's right.
If people are really interested in this, she did a documentary, and I highly go back to listen to her podcast, and you can probably find the documentary of how this whole opera came to be and Ed's part in it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
So you have any other big things that are on that bucket list that you want to do?
I don't know.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
can't think of anything that I really, at this point in my career, I'm just kind of enjoying. The pandemic had a positive side for me as well as a negative, and that is that I just kind of worked kind of uninterrupted and just did a lot of stuff. I didn't have any commissions or anything. It was kind of nice. Just I enjoy commissions, but I enjoy just painting for me. Whatever I want to walk in, whatever I want to do.
It's probably nice not having to have any big major shows too that you had to be associated
There's no
with.
museums to deal with, and and I didn't do any major shows or anything. So anyway, that was good. I think it was good for me creatively just to take a period and kind of do some pure stuff.
Yeah, well, hopefully you and I have been talking about this for, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, about a new book too, maybe.
I think it's time. It's been, it was 97, so we're 24 years, basically, since I've had one, and that's more than half of my painting career.
Right, yeah. And it's Don Haggerty wrote it, Beyond the Visible Terrain, which is out of print. You can't get it. It's like $150 book probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you look through it, and when I look through it, and I think about all the stuff you've done since then, it's almost like there's a whole different life that's lived that hasn't been captured.
I agree, and I've done so much work.
Yeah. Well, and all the things that you've done since then, like postage stamps and operas.
That's
and,
true.
Major paintings. Karshner cameras. Things that have gone in.
What year that was, actually.
Yeah, it was in the 2000s, though. I know that for sure.
Was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Plus, you've had major pieces that are in, museum holdings, like Denver Art Museum has a major piece. And, the Autry just bought one of your major paintings
I got
for
the
their
purchase award for the Masters show that they had which was never open to the public. I think 5 people at a time could go in or something.
Well, they can, but because you won the purchase award, they can see that painting forever.
I was kind of shocked.
Yeah,
because there's a real tradition of more traditional Western themes and some great stuff, of course. And but I gave him one of my more modern pieces, and it was a purchase award, which was really nice.
Yeah, they were smart to buy it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And whoever bought the study was smart to buy that too.
Oh, yeah. I think I know that guy.
Beautiful painting. If you go to the Atrium, it's probably hanging, I would imagine. I imagine they have it up somewhere.
Yeah, I'm planning on, next time I go visit my son there, I'm planning to go and buy, if it's hanging, that is.
I bet it is. It's their latest, it's a collection to the collection. I bet it is up. And it's a big painting. It's a major painting.
Yeah, it's...
I was fortunate to get to see it in your studio.
40 something. I can't remember. 44, I believe is the size.
So now you've been doing this for 50 years almost. Or what do you tell those people that are out there that are younger artists that are kind of thinking about going into it? How do they develop a style? Like, I mean, you developed your own style, your own person. How do you tell those? What do they do?
You know, I base it on probably my schooling. It had a lot to do with getting me where I am. You know, you absorb all that stuff. You know, some of you don't even remember, but you got it in there to help you start developing whatever the tools in anything. A good musician, has to know what he's doing. And I think it's true with art and acting, everything, usually anyway. But anyway, and there's painters that are great without any of that. But I think even being an illustrator was good because it's sort of, you were getting stuff thrown at you that you'd never done before. And I think it's a challenge as well. I think, I was always interested in modern design in the 30s and stuff. I even owned a 30s deco house early when I moved back to Phoenix. The freeway took it, or I might still be there. I don't know. It was a little small, actually. But anyway, those influences and studying modernism and all those things kind of crept into to my memory, and something came out of it, and that's what it is.
So dig deep inside and try not to, it's fine to have influences, but don't try to be that other person. Do your own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's absolutely right. I think Maynard would even agree that I'm not a Maynard Dixon ripoff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and Maynard had his own influences. I mean,
he did.
You look at the teen stuff that he did after the Pan Pacific in 1912. All of his colors changed completely. He went to this bright, impressionistic sensibilities because he's seeing all these impressionistic paintings.
Right.
And he was definitely doing it. And Bellows, seeing what Bellows did, he had affected him in the 30s when he did scabs and pickets and things. I'm sure that was a big major influence, who he knew, Bellows. Yeah. So, there's nothing wrong with going, I love Ed Mell's stuff, but just don't try to be Ed Mell. Figure out your own fractile way you're going to do it on your own that rings true, and not people go, oh, well, that's kind of like how they're just trying to make Ed stuff.
Well, that's part of the deal.
Yeah. Well, when I watch you paint, it's interesting to see because that's one of the things people couldn't knock you off anyway. You have your painting and you're turning it on the side and you're painting and talking and then flip it back and turn it. I'm always amazed how you can do that. And I think that's, again, like being a Navajo weaver who doesn't have to write things down on the canvas. She can make the canvas and she can make the designs out of her head, and you do the same with your paintings. I've watched it, and it's an amazing thing to do, actually, is to watch you paint.
Well, the reason I turn them over because I'm probably trying to do a straight line.
Could be.
And it's a lot harder to paint it this way than this way.
But it's interesting to see that when you're turning it on the side and it just flows seamlessly. And the other thing I think that you've been extremely smart about and successful is how you've handled your galleries. And maybe you could just mention that to artists, because that's a struggle for all artists. How do you deal with galleries? Because you've only had like maybe 4 real galleries, and that time
I
frame.
had short stints even in Denver and in Houston, and all of them were fine. It's just at a certain point, especially recently, I just can't take on any more because I have galleries everywhere that, I mean, when Overland closed, I had probably 10 or 12
I'm sure.
galleries approach me.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to do it on my own in the Phoenix area. But
but you've only really had, I mean, you've had, Brown, me, Matt Owings, and you've managed to somehow keep true to those galleries. And there's some formula there that should work for other artists, I think.
I believe that I think I formed friendships with most of them.
Yeah, that's
I think that has something to do with it. We're both on the same path. It has a lot more to do with money's a secondary aspect of it. It's more like the connection and friendship. I mean, I've been buddies forever.
That's it. That's the freaking answer right there. You find a dealer who respects your work, collects it maybe even, and is more concerned about the person than the art.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, unfortunately, I think. So I think that's right.
Yeah.
Because I'm much more interested in having dinner with you than finding out if you have a painting for me.
Although that might come up.
You were coming down from here and I didn't say, do you have a painting? I never asked, because I figured if you have a painting, you're going to bring it. If you don't, I don't care. February's coming and I'll have my show then and we'll do it.
Exactly.
It's really about the story.
Yeah. Well, it's, to me that, people that are happy in the workplace, so to speak, are better producers,
It's true.
I mean, I always like to do a good show for you guys.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's always a sellout, which is a wonderful thing for everybody. But it takes a long time. I mean, people think, well, I want to sell out. Well, it takes you a while to be able to get to that level.
Well, you build your clientele too. Once you have a large collector base, things move quicker.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I've been at this 50 years.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's 50, but a long time.
A long time. Well, you've been painting at least since 77, so maybe not. But you've been in the art business before that too, so
that's true.
That all counts, right? I mean, that all counts. Any last words you want to say to people that are listening to this?
Put me on the spot here.
Yeah, no. They don't have to be great words of wisdom.
Well, I'm glad to be here. It only took me 2 or 3 years to get here.
It's been.
I wanted to make sure you were a seasoned interviewer before I showed
I'm better now. Don't listen to the first podcast. This is good. Well, what you learn as a host, I think, is to shut your mouth and listen to the person who's talking.
Actually, you remind me of stuff to talk about, which is good because some of it doesn't come up. But I've had a great career. I've great friends, great clients, great artist buddies. I have, good people in my world. I have Jake O'Neill, who now stretches my canvases, as well as works on my old cars and does a lot of other things. And I've known him his whole life. And I'm grateful for Kenny, and my wife Rosemarie has been supportive and wonderful.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
So, I feel like a very fortunate man, really.
Yeah. There is one person we left out, and I did a podcast with him that we should talk about because I think he's really important in your work, and that's Michael Collier.
Well, Michael and I go back to 81.
Yeah.
Where I gave him a painting to frame my first show.
In 81?
In 81.
God, I didn't even know it was that long ago.
Yeah,
so everybody, when you see an Ed Mell painting, it's a Collier frame, unless they got changed out somewhere along the way.
No, we're still holding true with some of the, we did a few variations of the theme, but, we've done, he and I designed them together. And so they're milled, they're custom made, leaves. And,
they're an important part of your imagery, I think, really.
Oh, yeah. I think, I think that's probably has something to do with schooling, it's a complete package. You need to present it in a way like you really love it. Too,
Well, you sign your frames. Each frame is signed. How did that happen, by the way?
I think it was somebody had taken one of my frames off at one time, and I thought, if I stamp, we made a stamp of my signature, which
Right.
they're still using,
Right.
the same one.
Yeah.
So if we stamp it, people will be less apt to take the frame off, because
Yeah.
it's kind of part of the art,
It is.
you know.
On more than one occasion, I've told people they get it and they want to reframe it for whatever reason. And I say, okay, you want to reframe it? That's fine. Do not get rid of this frame. You put a note on it that it went with this painting and it's an Ed Mell frame from Collier, and you keep it. Because in my feeling is those are important to have with the paintings.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, an original Dixon frame's nice with that.
Yeah, right. And I see people get rid of those too sometimes, and it's like,
Yeah.
just I'll take the frame. You know, I'll buy the frame. So yeah, I think, I mean, again, I think it shows to who you are. You know, you've been with Collier since 81, right?
Yeah.
40 years. You know, me with over 25 years, Owings over 30 years. I mean, you know, you develop these relationships.
Been with the same foundry.
And lithograph people too, right?
Yeah, and Michael Rayburn have been with
Yeah.
a heck of a long time.
Yeah. I think that's a good takeaway for artists that are out there. Find people you can work with, that you can develop real relationships with, not just business, but other.
Yeah, I think absolutely true.
Yeah.
You know, and because, you know, I've known of artists that are always complaining about their galleries and always moving, and I'm going, that's wastes so much energy.
Yeah.
You know, think about how many paintings you could do in that period of time.
Yeah, it's true. And you'll be better.
Then you go and gather up all your crap and take it somewhere else.
Well, you know, and gallerists can have input, good input,
Yeah.
you know, things that they may say and go, well, you know, I think you and I have a relationship where if I'm in your studio and you ask me a real question about what I think of a painting, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm usually going to love it, but maybe you might be something that you go, well, should I make it big? And I might go, for sure you should. And because I can see it with a little different eyes, just like your wife, Rosemary, can see it
Sure.
with a different eye that you might not be
Right.
able to see.
Kenny and
Yeah.
Jake, I talked to them all, you know.
Right. Yeah, you have to have that trust developed. Yeah, and then they have to see enough of it to really
But
know.
it is true, you know, you just, I mean, to me, sticking with the same people, there's a comfort zone in
Yeah.
there. You're not dealing with some new people.
Right.
And I guess I've been very fortunate in picking good ones, you know.
I'd like to think so. And I'd like to think the same, that I've gotten artists that I really can have as friends and family. And when I sell a painting for one of my artists, especially maybe an artist who doesn't sell that often, it's like a big deal. We're like happy and excited as a gallery, not just me.
Right.
Yeah, that, you know, because we made a difference for somebody. We know
Sure.
it's like, you know, they get to get their kids, you know, braces paid for or whatever.
Right.
And I get to pay for some of my stuff too.
Right.
So, well, Ed, you're a wonderful human being, a great artist.
Well, thank you very much. So,
Thank you for finally figuring out a time when we both could work. It's not just been Ed, it's been me as well. But we've been wanting to, every time I do a podcast and another person, we talk about Ed Mell, I'd be like, there's a little dagger in me going, yeah, I haven't had Ed on. Want to find out some stuff.
Well, I figured I better get down here.
Yeah, no, it's time. All right. Well, Ed Mell, Art Dealer Diaries.
Well,
We love having you, man.
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's go.
It was a joy.
All right. Very good. Thanks. Bye. We need your support for the Medicine Man Gallery channel, so make sure to click the subscribe button and tap the little bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, which we do every morning on Wednesday and Friday. See you soon.